All right, we're alive, and welcome to the Head Angle podcast. We've been talking about doing this for quite a while now. Time to get it started, get on it. So tonight we have a person that a lot of you BMX people out there will be familiar with, and if you're not familiar with him, you're probably under the age of 20, or you've been under a rock for, I don't know, your whole life and not really been paying attention to the world. But tonight, yeah, very special guest, the one and only, the legendary Matthew Paul Holmes. How you doing?
Good to be here, man.
Stoked to get this thing rolling.
Let's do it.
Hell yeah. Now, I guess, Matt, safe to say that you've been pretty much a very large part of behind the scenes stuff in, I guess, the Australian BMX scene over the last, 25 plus years. You've done lots. And I guess, get started in, how the hell did you find BMX, man?
It was pretty much the early 80s. BMX was pretty big back then. I lived in a place in Victoria called Ballarat. We moved up there from Melbourne, and it was right at that age when you had to get around, and I was a fair way out of the city, so the only way to get around was a bike. BMX was the kind of bike you'd have, so everyone was racing BMX and riding around on BMXs. So
hell yeah.
Got on a BMX pretty young.
Perfect.
And that was era of racing, like that first BMX boom in Australia. It was full on. I remember going to a track when I was really young, rode out to it. I think we went past it in the car, and then I rode to it a weekend later with a friend. It took us hours, and then watched the race, and it was so heavy because people lining up, 8 at a time, and then it was this huge bang, and dudes were racing. Like, it was full on. I was like, yeah, BMX is cool. Racing, I guess, never really my thing, but the ride out to a spot like that and all the stuff you'd ride on the way, that's what stuck.
I guess also on the ride home, you'd be kind of charged from seeing that energy.
You just pedaled your head off at everything. And BMX was popping up in heaps of mainstream media. Like E.T. was like early 80s, and of course Haro and a bunch of crew were in that, getting away from the FBI.
Riding there.
Stuff like
Kuhara,
that. Yeah.
KEO1? Right?
Yeah, I just knew it was a Kuhara, I think. But what else? That era, a lot of movies were coming out, those trading cards and Weet-Bix packets. BMX.
We have some of those here.
all over the place, and you walked into a bike shop back then and there was road bikes, there was family bikes, like your mum's bike, and kids' bikes, and then there were these crazy things with different colored tires, and BMX was pretty rad.
It's like a sensual overload, walking into a bike shop like that and just seeing stuff everywhere and seeing, the colors, the patterns, the graphics from back in the day, very striking, lightning bolts and that sort of cool shit, So.
Yeah, maybe too much pastel colors, but it's all good.
Maybe. That's awesome. Well, cheers to BMX and thanks for coming on, man. Let's crack one of these bad boys and thank you, man.
Cheers. Let's do this.
Stoked. All right. Much like yourself, one of the Inner West's finest.
Cheers.
So I guess moving on from that initial introduction to BMX, how'd you kind of get proper addicted? And I guess, you grew up in Adelaide. So what was things like back then?
Yeah, moved from Ballarat in Victoria to Adelaide. And it's funny, man, I had a BMX. I had a mountain bike as well because my parents were never going to help me get another BMX. They needed the bike to get around. And we were up in the hills of Adelaide, so, it was just easy to get around on a bigger bike, but it was rad to ride around on a BMX. But actually, when it really hit the whole freestyle thing big time was I traveled back to Ballarat to see friends at Christmas. Saw some friends, and then I caught a train down to Melbourne to see my grandma. And I got on the train on the way home from Melbourne. And there's this dude on the platform with a sick BMX I'd never seen before with a double top tube. And he had a helmet, a crazy full face helmet. Well, I wasn't a full face, but had a joffer on it, like an old Echo or something, or Bell Moto 3 or something. Can't remember.
Nice.
And this huge gear bag and pads hanging out of it and just stuff. And extra bars. I'm like, what the hell's that dude doing? That's so gnarly. Anyway, I went up and talked to him. Ended up being a really cool dude called Tammy Storer. And he lived in Ballarat. And I never knew him when I lived there, but I was a fair way out of Ballarat just riding dirt stuff. And he'd just been in a comp. And I just talked to him on the train the whole way home, and yeah, I was just like, holy shit, man. Like freestyle exists in Australia. Dudes ride ramps and jump stuff. And so I ended up going back to Adelaide, I stayed in touch with him. I think back then, you had to write someone a letter because the internet didn't exist.
Yeah.
Ends up, I went riding with him like a couple months later, went and stayed with him and just rode everything in Ballarat, rode a couple of ramps they had. And I was like, holy crap. Adelaide didn't really have much to ride at the time. I had Ridge Park, which is a big vert ramp, massive one. And Fulham Gardens, which was a concrete park with a tight bowl and then a capsule bowl, which was only about 4 to 5 foot at each end, but really fun.
And when you say capsule bowl, that's not today's oververt half full pipe capsule bowl. That's the
bowl.
Shape of a tablet.
Yeah, the shape of a tablet.
Chemist.
Yeah, fully.
Totally.
And then it had a donut thing down the end. And there were some cool lines transferring between, and some dudes shredded. That was cool. But Adelaide scene was pretty tight back then. Talking sort of mid to late 80s. There was a big flatland crew. There's some dirt crew.
And you rode a lot of flat as well.
We just rode everything because you'd go ride on a Saturday and Sunday when you weren't at school, and you'd ride to meet crew. There was a couple crew at my school that rode, so we would bail from the hills up from Blackwood High, would bum down the hill and ride everything on the way. There was drains, there was dirt, jumps to ride, old BMX tracks. Yeah, a couple of drains. Sturt Drain was pretty massive, pretty cool spot. And we'd ride down to Glenelg, ride flat with some Glenelg dudes, and you cruise around. You ride back to the city. You could ride to another place called the L Drain. Yeah, there was good riding, and the city was fun,
Man, fuck, it sounds like a great, it sounds awesome.
It was a cool scene. It was
everyone hanging out, riding everything.
Yeah, it was cool. And it really happened really fast because, there was a moment when I suddenly realized there was more riders than just up in the hills. And there's a thing in Adelaide, and it was called the Rock and Roll of Stedford, where the schools have a dance-off. It's kind of wacky. I didn't really understand it, but it was
choreographed.
Yeah, a whole school would be into it, doing
some,
they'll do Pink Floyd The Wall and be dressed up like the video or something. It'd be kind of wacky. It'd be like
inter-school talent quest.
Interpretive dance, kind of, maybe I should do something else. I don't know. Anyway, but it was on telly, right? It was a big thing in Adelaide. And the school comes out, one of the beachside schools. That was a long way from where we were. And these dudes rode out on Masters and were doing tricks in the middle of the performance. And I was like, holy crap, who are those dudes? And they had slick blonde hair, flat tops, and looked like they're out of California, running Vision Streetwear or something. And I was like, holy crap, there's more riders in Adelaide. And ended up being a dude called Simon Hoyle and another dude, Scott. And they were cool dudes. I met them a couple of weeks later. It was a good scene.
What year do you reckon that was, roughly?
88.
Okay. Kind of
88 Masters are on.
Yeah.
So there you go.
That's arguably
one
of the I guess the second half of that initial freestyle boom, when I guess things started getting a bit more progressive.
The coolest part about that time was there was people starting to really rebel against wearing uniforms, like freestyle dudes having to wear the race inspired gear and be dressed like that and act like that and be professional like that. And the best thing for me was that street riding was just starting. You had Craig Grasso suddenly doing grinds and stuff. And it changed everything, Suddenly you got a copy of Go from the local newsagent.
The rider's manual.
There was freestyling. We could get freestyling then, and that was finishing up. But we had a newsagent up in the hills. This is probably bad. But we would go and stash all the BMX mags, like BMX Plus, freestyling, and then before it became Go, that's about it. That was the only mags you could get back then. And we'd hide them behind all the other mags, like stash them. And then you'd wait a month. We didn't have any money. Well, I didn't have any money. And then they'd chuck them out. They'd cut the mast tail, they'd up the barcode off it or something, and then chuck it in the bin. And then we'd go, because we used to ride flat and had a jump ramp in this car park, and you'd go get all the mags out of there. So it probably took 3 months for the mag to get to Australia and probably another month till I could get it. But then you would see what was going on in it. And the change was epic. And that was a big thing to suddenly, it's not just flatland and ramp. There's crazy street going on and dirt and everything started happening. So that was a good time.
Oh, man. So, I definitely missed out on that era. So, definitely an appreciator of the older stuff and kind of wish that I was there to see all that stuff. But it sounds like what a time to be, like an exciting time to be new to something. Like, even I hold the era when I first started riding still very dear to me. Like, I mean, 95, 96, a wacky time for BMX. But at the same time, I look at videos and mags from that era and I just still get so excited.
Yeah.
And I just, the bikes were borderline a bit wacky, starting to get wackier. But I flip through old magazines from when I first started riding and I still love it so much. Just the aesthetic of it and everything, even though I feel like the 80s, late 80s, early 90s sort of phasing out of the freestyle uniform stuff and into the kind of wearing street clothes. And, obviously Ron Wilkerson was your sponsored Haro, clean cut uniform guy. Then all of a sudden he's, too hip, doing meet the street comps, punk rock attitude, dirty, filthy, just fucking rad party shit, So,
do it yourself.
Yeah. And that kind of evolution, and I feel like that sort of, like you mentioned, that kind of rebellious sort of era would have been just fun as hell to be in the mix at that time. So.
You thought you could do anything, I think. You're like, cool, I'm just going to go with this. What can I do on this bike?
Yeah.
It was cool. Yeah.
And I guess you kind of just kept rolling with it as you grew out of your teenage years and kind of started being an adult and stuff.
Yeah, like it was real hard because the last year of school, it's real hard because you just want to ride all the time. And I actually left halfway through the year because I just wanted to ride. Like, my mum and dad hated it, but I just bailed on school and just went riding all the time. Ended up being a bike messenger as well, but just riding BMX all weekend and riding during the week to get paid. Go to comps, travel the country, ride with crew. It was epic. I went back and finished school the next year at TAFE.
Okay.
But yeah, like you just wanted to ride. It was good.
And you... being in Adelaide at that time, and again, being not super close, but close to a giant city like Melbourne, who would have had a bit more going on for it. You do a lot of trips to Melbourne for events and comps and stuff.
Yeah, first comp I did in Melbourne blew my mind. Like, I'd go see my grandma quite a bit, real close to her in Melbourne, and I was down there, and I think I heard it on public radio that there was a freestyle comp on. It's like, holy crap, when is it, And I mean, that's how you found out about stuff. And then I was like, I'm going to go to it. So I'll just jump on the overland, the train with my bike, travel overnight, get to Melbourne. I'll ride from the station to my grandma's, which was in just Nipperan. And then I'll find my way to the Nunawading. I don't know where Nunawading is, but there's a train that goes there. So I'll just go, I'll just turn up. And it was like 88 or 80.
Google Map in your back pocket.
Yeah, there wasn't any phones in Google Maps, man. So
actual maps made of paper.
Yeah, and tickets made of paper. And,
yeah, no shit.
Yeah, man. So trips to like Adelaide had a cool scene, but you wanted to see more people riding. And going to the skate ranch comp at Nunawading, just mind bender. It's a quarter pipe and flatland comp in a roller skating rink. And I didn't actually know where it was, but luckily I ran into some crew that helped me out. So
was that the time when you were like at a petrol station, then like dudes in a car pulled up or something?
Yeah, I jumped off the train at Nunawading, which isn't right next to the station's not right next to where the comp was. I just knew it was at a roller skating rink. And it's early in the morning. I wanted to get early, and I'm sat at the petrol station eating like Nutri-Grain out of the box. And you pour milk into it, and just like a little bum kid, just eating cereal, but I was starving. And then dudes are putting petrol in their car, and this dude just walks up to me going, "Where are you from? What are you doing? What are you here for?" And of course, I ended up finding out it's Lindsay Brown and Dave Scott, and I ended up jumping in the car with them, and they take me to the comp. So that was pretty cool.
That's the best. I love hearing that sort of stuff.
It was a small, I mean, it was a small crew. So if you weren't from somewhere, I guess you didn't stick out, but people were like, "You ride." I mean, there was always that saying that you could always tell a rider or a skater back then from, a couple hundred meters down the street, and you'd probably end up being friends with them because there weren't that many. So that was a cool time.
Man, yeah. So exciting, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And then I guess, carrying on, I mean, starting to figure out like your sort of path, I guess, your artistic side, kind of, I guess, following through with the things you like to do, drawing and graphic stuff and photography and all that sort of thing. I guess, how'd you wind up starting to do creative, BMX creative stuff? You did a zine when you were younger, yeah?
Yeah, man. I always wanted to make stuff. Like, I could never really separate in my head the difference between learning to do a trick with it flatland, on a ramp, on a jump. That creative process in your head of trying to work it out in your head, work out the puzzle of how to do it, felt the same as, I want to sculpt something or paint something or draw it. Like I ended up going, to an art school and then going to uni to do sculpting, just doing crazy art. Just really alcohol and marijuana appreciation, pretty much. But it was fun, had a real good time. And always wanted to make stuff, and always wanted to shoot photos of my friends and the crew I rode with and document it. And then I'm like, oh, screw it, man. Like, I remember I had a subscription to Go Magazine and, your subscription's running out and they would always send you little notes and stuff. They were mass printed ones, but I know. I remember looking at it going, I'm just going to write them a letter and go, how do you start a magazine? You know what I mean?
Straight up.
I want to make a mag for Australia. And they sent me a letter back. Like Mark Lumen sent a letter.
Snail mail? I mean...
It was, man. You sent a letter. I had to send a money order to get a subscription. So you'd write a letter, put the money, or go to the post office, give them the money, and then they would give you this check-looking thing. And you just send it, and then...
Do they exist anymore, money orders?
Who knows, man. But a few months later, you'd get a magazine in the mail and some stickers, and you'd be like, best thing ever. And you'd see what the hell's going on. It was cool. But yeah, I just wrote a letter saying, I want to start a mag. And they just wrote back going, chuck some stuff on some pages, photocopy it, whatever. I can't remember. I think I've got it. Anyway, I got amped and made a zine pretty much a month later. Just the photos I had of friends and the stuff we've been doing and just hand wrote things, cut it out, drew pictures, cut it out and stuck it on pieces of paper. And then a friend of mine, a dude I rode bike as a courier with, a bike messenger, he had a part-time job at Snap Printing and he had the keys. So after hours, we went and printed it. And I don't know, made 50 copies.
That's the best contact ever.
And it was black and white, but we used color paper on the cover. So there was, I think, 10 red ones and then the rest were green. So it was color. I just wanted to make a zine. It was called Abandon. And at the same time as that, in my head, because I had an ad on the back, which was a hand-drawn drawing of a dude with the shorts and a T-shirt on. And I started a little clothing company sort of alongside it because I figured if you had a zine, you could sort of have the mag, the zine and the clothes and the scene and try and start running some events and build a scene in Adelaide.
It all sort of tied in together.
Just make it all happen because no one was doing anything. So I'll just go do it. Didn't know what I was doing.
And how long do you reckon that lasted for doing the zine? How many do you reckon you did?
Well, the first one was just called Abandon. And the second one was called Reckless Abandon. The third one was called Dirt, actually, because it had a lot more dirt jumping in it because we were running a lot of dirt jams in Adelaide. And then funnily enough, the English BMX mag ride started a mountain bike mag called Dirt. I'm like, you took my name, man. Like, it was funny.
Wow.
But it was just like that do-it-yourself attitude. If I can learn a trick on a bike, I can learn pretty much how to do anything.
Fuck yeah! What a good outlook. That's fuck yeah. It's awesome. Oh man, wish I had. Yeah, can't do it. But I guess, and after Abandon, I guess you kind of what did you find? Did you start doing any jobs in terms of I guess print media or creative stuff? I was a bike messenger for a few years when I was at uni and art school, and I did a clothing textile course in how to make clothes and patterns, and that was cool. And I was just a bike messenger because I could just ride. Occasionally I'd ride a BMX, but you didn't make much money. And you get kicked out of spots and it'd be the people you worked for, so it was bad. So I was just a bike messenger, but then I moved to Melbourne just to be around more riders and ride more. And so when I got there, I just became a bike messenger. And I worked in a bike shop part-time, but when I was a bike messenger, it was rad because I'd be in you ran a lot of businesses, and you're in a lot of law firms and crap, but I also walked into a lot of ad agencies and a lot of design firms. And there was just one place that I dropped some parcels out on a Friday. And every day I was in there, I'd be talking to one of the girls who was working on a computer on a Mac, going, how do you do this with Photoshop? Because I had a Mac, I had it a few years, and I was trying to, I was making the zine on it and trying to work out how to do stuff on it.
And I'd be asking how to do something, like, oh, how would you do this? Or how would you do this in Photoshop? Or how do you change the color to that? And she'd always show me bits. And there was just one Friday night, I dropped some work in for them and it got signed off. And the boss was like, you know how to do some of this stuff, don't you? You were always interested. Can you work tonight? And I was like, what now? And I said, well, I can't now. I've still got 2 jobs on. It was like, $30 or $40 worth if I delivered it before 6. I was like, I can be back here at 6:30. He's like, yeah, sure, come in. So I just came in, did some work. And that kind of led me to getting a job with a company that did scanning and did running the film, the old ways of making stuff go onto the printing presses. And they did some layout and I was like, man, I'm in. I'm going to learn how to do this.
Yeah, rad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
best rated.
Yeah, it was crazy because you're just in the right place at the right time.
And I remember going to Melbourne as a kid. My brother was playing basketball at some crazy basketball tournament. We were there for like 3 or 4 days or something. And I just sort of started riding, go into a bike shop because back then you just seek out bike shops and see if they had 2 BMX bikes or whatever. And there was like a free sort of like newspaper print sized magazine called Freewheel.
Yes.
And then there was a little offshoot of that with Freewheel BMX. And
yes.
Later I come to realize that you actually contributed a bunch of stuff to that and you worked for those guys.
I wouldn't call it worked. I did some stuff for him. Yeah, I did a lot of stuff for him. But yeah, I learned a lot from working with the guys at Freewheel with Adam. Yeah, man. Like, I mean, that's funny itself. I mean, that's the reason I moved to Melbourne. Actually, that's the whole reason I moved to Melbourne. I went up to Cairns in '96 for a mountain biking world championships just to see heaps of riders and just see the pinnacle of that sport, downhill world champs. Sean Palmer was racing, BMX dudes, Toby Henderson, Mike King, Pistol Pete, Eric Carter, Brian Lopes. Man, the list of BMXers who were in mountain bike back then. No one really got the crossover between BMX and mountain bike. Everyone is now. I caught flack for mountain bike, but I rode mountain bikes and I rode BMX. Like, I never saw the difference. Different tool. Like, some people drink beer and they can have a tequila after. There's not, they're different tools for the job.
Totally.
So, but whatever. Yeah. So I was up in Cairns and I ended up doing a lot of riding. I headed north with a couple of friends. We checked out the world champs and we went camping and riding bikes further north, and it was a great time. But I met this guy who had a magazine up there, and I was shooting some photos, and I had my zine, and I was like, I wanted to do more. And he goes, if you're ever in Melbourne, come into the office and, you could probably get a job. So I moved to Melbourne as soon as I got back.
Just like that.
Straight over,
Fuck
yeah.
it. Let's go.
Yeah, and I mean, it was good. I always wanted to go to Melbourne because there'd be more to ride, BMX and mountain bike, and just more opportunities in Adelaide. Nothing against Adelaide, but a bigger city, bright lights, moth situation, isn't it? Yeah. So, I went to Melbourne and I got my head into working out how to make mags by working with Freewheel and then working with another mag company with an amazing guy, Grant, who had a publishing house. He had about 8 mags, and he became a mentor to me. They were all mags, there was like a jewelry mags and industry mags for cars and stuff and whatever, but I got to learn how to make a mag with him and a little studio and all the different people, and he was amazing because he let me. I said I wanted to start a mag, which was called 2020, and he was like, you want to start a mag? And it's about this thing you love. And I show him stuff and he'd be like, this is amazing. He goes, look, here's the key. You can use the place after hours. Once we're shut, come in here anytime. You can use all the scanning equipment. You can use the computers and you can use the film, which this is the biggest thing. You had to run film to give it to a printer to get printed. It doesn't happen anymore. And that was quite an expensive process. And I knew how to use all the equipment. So
You had a head start.
So I wanted to start 2020 and I made a mag and then I had the facilities to print it. Oh, not to print it, but I had the facility to get everything done without having to pay much money. You know what I mean? I could pay the contributors. Yeah, so 2020 was born from me going to Melbourne to learn how to make mags.
And what, I guess, when you actively decided that you're going to actually sit down, you're going to start making an actual magazine, this is going to be a thing you're going to do with the next period of your life is I'm going to be making a magazine?
No.
Okay.
I sat down and went, I'm going to make a magazine. One.
Just one.
I'm going to make a magazine. It didn't go beyond that. The thought process wasn't there. I was riding bikes, learning how to do this thing. I was like, I'm going to make a mag properly, like a American magazine or an English magazine. And it's going to have my friends in it. And it's going to have crew that are nuts and I think are better than in America. And it'll be our scene.
What?
But I didn't think beyond one issue.
And what?
I gave a credit card to the
later?
printer. I gave a credit card to the printer. Go, yeah, here's all the film. Can I get a mag? And the printer just looked at me and like, what do you mean? I go, here's all the film. I want to get 5,000 copies. How much is it going to be?
Who the fuck's this kid?
Yeah.
What is he doing?
Yeah, pretty much. I'll pay us. And he goes, yeah, I'll have to give it a deposit. I go, here's a credit card. There's $5,000 on it. How much is it going to cost? It's going to be more than that. I'm like, oh.
Okay.
But here's my credit card. Just put the deposit on. Can you print it? I didn't know anything. Luckily, Adam from Freewheel, he helped and spoke to the distributor and, got a shitty deal with the distributor. I got ads in the mag somehow, ringing up people.
Cold call.
But people I knew through writing and comps, so I had my hookups, I'd met a lot of people at comps and just people came on board, and some companies came on board and I quickly learned, which is why, I got a second issue out and then a third one didn't come out because I was owed that much money and I didn't know how to chase it and people were just like, I'm not going to pay you. Luckily, some people did, and they're people that I dealt with for the history, the whole history of the mag. But some people burnt some bridges early.
Yeah.
It's whatever, you learn. It was a big learning curve, but an amazing one. It's like, I'm making a mag, and I'm doing it with a stack of crew that I've ridden with all my life. So, yeah.
And when issue 1 came out, and you got to like hold it for the first time, and like you see it in print, glossy magazine, like were you just fucking pumped?
It was a mind bender. It had sat in my head. It had sat on sketches, in notebooks. It had sat in rolls of film, not printed because it's all transparency, and it all sat in the computer, and all suddenly come together, and you could get it in a newsagent.
And I'll never forget. I remember vividly buying issue 1.
Yeah.
I remember being was it about 98, maybe somewhere in there.
Yeah, 98.
And
Yeah.
I was at school and we had this dude in my class, Nick Plim, and John will remember Nick Plim. He was like a mountain bike kid. Wasn't really a mountain bike kid. He was just, he just had a mountain bike and he thought BMX bikes were little and dumb. And he used to go, you fucking bikes, stupid and dumb. I got a mountain bike. I ride over rocks and shit. Anyway, I think it was geography. I don't know. Teacher was away, had a substitute teacher. Everyone's just running amok, doing whatever. I see Nick Plim pulls a magazine out of his bag and it's issue 1. And I'm like, I'd somehow heard that maybe 2020 was going to happen or had come out, or I don't know how. I'd heard that maybe there was a new Aussie mag.
I can't believe it even made it out of Melbourne. I didn't realise it made it to Sydney.
Well, there I was, Leichhardt High School, 1998, geography, 4th period. And this mountain bike kid, Nick Plim, shout out to Nick Plim. He's around somewhere. But I'm like, where the fuck did you get that? And let me read it now, please. He's like, piss off, Tom. I bought it from Norton Street News Agency. And I was like, holy shit, I got to like ditch next class. And I got $7 in my backpack. And I went and bought issue 1. And I was so stoked. And I was like, because I'd heard, growing up in the inner west, we had Mike Daly and Tim Lynch and a couple of Rob Derbyshire. Yeah, they were like the 5-doc, it was mythical legends that you'd hear about, you'd see around. Yeah, and seeing photos of these dudes in glossy print mag and just being like, this is so fucking rad.
That's rad.
And yeah, man. So I guess the stoke of issue 1 got you like, hey, I'm going to do issue 2.
I'm going to do another one. Yeah, everyone,
Which is this guy right here.
Yep.
Joe Morris, I believe, on the cover.
Yeah.
West WA?
It's WA. Graham Pereira shot that.
Yeah.
Epic dudes.
One of my favourite covers ever, dude.
Yeah.
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 Stoked.
Always go down well. Yeah, as if. Yeah, so it's like people sent letters I had an email address, but not many people used email in 98.
I know.
Google didn't exist in 98, dude. Google wasn't around. It wasn't a company.
Can you even fathom that now? Like, I mean, obviously we lived through a time before that, but 20-year-old BMXers out there, they don't know a time before Google.
That's it.
Crazy.
That's it. Funny thing is, the house that I made that magazine in had faster internet than you can get in Sydney now.
Oh my God.
I lived in a crazy house with amazing dude, Simon Haswell, pretty crazy vert skater, and another very good friend, Lars Verdick, amazing snowboarder. Ended up being VP at Globe. Crazy creative household of mayhem. And somehow they put up with making a BMX mag in there, which was good.
And whenabouts did you move to Sydney then?
So issue 2 came out, 89, I guess.
99?
Sorry, 99, yeah.
Doesn't say on the cover.
Yeah, man, like, got 2 issues out, and then I was owed a bunch of money and just couldn't fund it. So issue 3 just didn't come out for ages, and it didn't come out. And I was living in this house down at Albert Park with those 2 guys, and we had something messed up in the power system and blew out like a couple of blocks in Port Melbourne and fried our house. So I had 2 computers, they got fried. All the lights, tellies, everything, if it was plugged into the wall, just got blown up. And I was like, so I lost issue 3 pretty much. Back then, hard drives were about, 128 meg. But whatever.
Probably kind of expensive too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's probably the same cost as everything is now. That's the funny bit. Anyway, it was kind of like, it's such a bummer. I was like, oh, there it is. 2020's over. Whatever. I'll just get a job. But I ended up getting a payout from the power company. And yeah, that was cool. So it got me 2 new Macs and a scanner, a way better scanner than I had, you know what I mean? Because I just had to replace for new. So I got a cool setup. And then I was wondering what to do, how to make the next one happen. And I got rung up by this guy from Sydney, calls me up going, hi, I'm Neil. I work with EMAP, I'm a big publisher. I hear you're having trouble getting your mag out. I like what you're doing. Would you like to work on another magazine? I was like, oh man, yeah, you know what? Why not? So they flew me up to Sydney that Friday. Can you come up for an interview? And I was like, yeah, but it's a fair way. He goes, no, I'll get my secretary to get you a flight. Friday? I was like, oh yeah, cool. So I went up on Friday. I sat down with Andy from Australian Dirt Bike, Andy Wigan, good friend still. And Neil Ridgway, I think he runs Rip Curl now. He's gnarly. I sat down with them and they said, yeah, we want you to design, art, direct the dirt bike mag. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't know much about dirt bike mags, but it seems like BMX. And I was like, I've got a mag that I want to get out. Do you reckon you could help me get it out eventually as part of it all? And it all seemed really cool. Yeah, and they offered me the job and how much I want to get paid. And I said some dumb figure and they went, nah, we'll give you this much. And I was like, yeah, I'll move to Sydney for that because I'm going to learn, you know, and I'd learn how to do it right. And they might even help me get the mag out. I went from that meeting, it was in morning in Haymarket in Chinatown in Sydney. And I went, okay, I'll get a bus to the beach. I'm going to go to Bondi, check out the ramp. I didn't have my bike. I'll check out the ramp and just hang out until I was flying back at like 9 that night. So I went down, I thought it was Bondi, but I ended up at Coogee. So anyway, I just went and had a beer.
Where's the ramp?
I know. I
thought this was fucking Bondi Beach.
Wrong bus, man. Anyway, so I get down the beach. It's quite funny. I was sitting on, I just bought a 6-pack of Coopers and I'm just saying, what do I do? Like, I love Melbourne. I'd kind of just broken up with a girlfriend. I should just move to Sydney. Hey, you're like, screw it. I can learn, you know? It's like the next progression to learn how to make media. And so I bailed to Sydney and I'm sitting at Coogee and this dude sits down next to me and goes, can I have a beer? And he's a big American dude. And I'm like, sure. He goes, what are you doing, man? You just drinking by yourself? Because like, I don't know, just after lunch. I'm like, I've got to make a big decision, man. Like, I just got offered a job. I'm from Melbourne. So I'm just talking to this dude and he's drinking a beer with me. And it was freaking hilarious because then 3 other dudes sit down. So all my beers get drunk. They're like, come and have beers with us. Anyway, it ends up being Pennywise and they're touring. So end up going on a bender with them.
Fucking
for
hell,
a few
that's the
days.
best.
Gigs down at Bullway Workers Club in Wollongong.
Were they in town? Was it like a Warp Tour or something? Or
It wasn't. It was just a Pennywise tour.
Yeah, right,
I'm
okay.
pretty sure. It was hilarious.
Man,
Um,
in their absolute prime too.
yeah, so Fletch is a big dude and surfing and stuff down at Hackham down Cronulla Way and wakeboarding with him. And a really good friend, Brett Stanley, who shot a few covers of 2020 and a Randall McQueen interview. He was shooting it, so I met him and just had a ball. Anyway, I come back to Sydney about 3 days later, haggard, same clothes, and I walk into EMAP where I've been offered a job, going, "Can I speak to Neil?" And the receptionist at EMAP, it was a bling place. She's looking at me going, "What?" And I'm like, I need to speak to Neil. And Neil comes down. I was like, "Dude, I want to, how's it going?" Like, I'm in. I want to take the job. And he's like, "What the fuck have you been doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I just had a crazy few days, but yeah, I really want the job. Can I get a flight home? I missed it." Anyway, so yeah, I ended up moving to Sydney straight after that. Like, that was near the end of the year. It was like November. And I had to come up a couple of weeks later, pack my stuff up, just came to Sydney. I had to get a mag out before Christmas. And then I had to find a house, and I ended up being Inner West. So
yeah, and I remember the first time I met you. Shout out to Harry Hill, who was another local
Harry.
Inner West.
Yeah.
He was one of our street dudes back then. He was a fucking ape. He killed it. He went to Glebe High, went to Leichhardt High, hooked up with him through Glebe Ramp, the Humpy Ramp. I remember that crazy.
Yeah.
Met him there one day, became friends, and he's like, "We're going to go riding, just going to go ride some street, whatever." And I'd just been introduced to pegs at the time, so just finding little feeble ledges to fuck around on. And he's like, "Oh, I'm just going to go see this guy I met, see if he wants to come riding." I was like, "Oh, okay." And we ride along Ross Street near Sydney Uni. Knock on the door of some random house in Ross Street, and you answer the door, and then he's like, "Oh, this is Tom, and this is Matt." And I was like, "Hi," and then find out that it's Matt fucking Holmes. And there we are, I don't know, 14, 15, 16, somewhere in there, just dumb kids like at your house, just going. And you're like, "Oh, I can't come riding. I've got to go do some stuff." We're like,
I was stoked. I was like, "Man, I moved to a place and there's riders. This place rocks."
Yeah.
It's good.
That was,
That's epic.
So, yeah.
That was a crazy house. Like, I was living with a real good friend, Morgan Campbell, amazing skater. And that house was loose. Like, it was fun. A lot of crazy people came and stayed there. BMXers and skaters alike. We had Jason Dill staying with us for like months.
Wow.
It was just mayhem.
Fuck yeah.
So that house was pretty out there. Yeah. Creative place.
Yeah. And good area back then too, man.
Yeah,
so,
man. Like that time was epic because I eventually twisted the arm of the management at EMAP. I was working on their mag and I was like, "Dude, can we somehow get my mag out? Can we get another issue of 2020 out? And you help me take care of the ads or something because I don't want to sell stuff. I just want to make a cool BMX mag that represents what I do." And they were like, "Yeah, sure. We'll back it as long as you keep getting your work done." Yeah, man. And I'll take a little cut and give me the resources. And so issue 4 popped out. And it was the best because, I was riding a lot with Mike Daly and Tim Lynch and those guys. And Mike's kind of like, "Yeah, we should try and get that mag going again. Like, what are you doing?" I don't know, that's too hard, man. I'm broke. Anyway, so we got issue 4 out, and So
was Mike involved with issue 4?
I think he wrote something in it. I had his photos of him in there.
I wasn't on board yet.
No. So it was just still me with EMAP, kind of taking care of selling the ads, which wasn't a great thing to do in hindsight, but the cool thing was I was getting a mag together again, and that was blowing my mind. I was like, yeah. And at the same time, stuff was just I'm in Sydney. No one knows me. We can do anything. And Daly's kind of like, I could come up with the dumbest ideas, and Daly would go, "Yeah, that's possible." So every time I'd ride with Mike, we'd be driving, say we're driving down to Kiama or, Ryder Park. You'd be in the car on the way home after the session, and ideas would come up. And so at that time when issue 4 was coming out, we had other massive projects going on, which was, I just thought you could do anything. And the scene in Sydney back then was pumping.
And issue 4 dropping coincided with a couple of things. I guess that was 2001, I believe, was Planet X Extreme Games at Homebush Stadium, Australia.
Yeah.
and also Road Warriors came out that year.
Yeah.
And you guys did the video premiere for Road Warriors at the historic Valhalla Cinema on Glebe Point Road.
Sick as silk. I mean, if you're going to go to a movie, the best thing happens, Valhalla, man.
Yeah. Fucking that place. Yeah. And that place is still like a local legendary. Everyone still talks about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, John and I grew up, you know, not far from there. And we were like, we're going to go to this fucking BMX thing, and it's gonna be right near home.
A movie premiere.
Yeah, and we turn up, and Chris Doyle's there, and like all the pros were in town for the Planet X games.
Yeah,
and we were kind of just hanging out and just in disbelief. It was me, I think John, Abs, maybe Tom Payne was there, and a few of the other younger crew, and we're just at the front on Glebe Point Road, place we grew up in, and all of a sudden there's Australian BMX legends, American BMX pros, and then like just all this buzz, and I see people holding magazines, and it turned out to be issue 4.
Yeah.
And I guess you had a few copies floating around.
Yeah, man, that was a crazy time. Like, Road Warriors, this whole idea in my head was all possible. It's like, we could have a series of jams, comps around the country, and we could get a big crew, and instead of, because some people can't make it to every state, and I'd lived in Adelaide, I'd lived in Melbourne, I'd lived in Sydney, I hadn't lived in Brisbane, but what if we did a trip and we took 20 people, or 10 people, I can't remember how many were on the trip now, and we went to all those places, and we had a comp or a jam in each one, and we documented it all for stuff for the mag, because I need things to put in the mag, and we'll be able to go get heaps of this content, and then we'll film it, and we'll make a film out of it, and we'll run a jam series, we'll make the scene go off. And I was like, no one was saying I couldn't do it. So, and Mike was into it, and everyone I think at the jams were into it, and we made a movie about it.
Yeah, and
had a premiere.
And you got some companies behind you. You know, like fucking V was just launched, that energy drink.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Well, I mean, the bar, the chocolate bar,
Viking bar,
Viking bar. That's
yeah.
It,
So yeah,
those dudes on board.
So Planet X, Planet X were running those big comps. I guess like the X Games, the Planet X one.
The X Trials too.
Yeah, they had the X Trials series and the televised stuff. And, I ended up talking to them a bit because, I was backing out of riding comps. I wasn't really riding any comps by then. And but I wanted to make sure things were done legitimately. So I was actually talking with the guys from Planet X about how they ran their comps, because the first two Planet X's, I didn't really dig riding them. The first one I didn't, it rained the whole time, and I thought things were a bit wacky. So I ended up going, well, why don't Mike and I put our heads in to try and help them make it legit, make it so the riders are happy, and make BMX legit, because it should be. It shouldn't be dictated to by corporate people or people that don't know what it is. So I started getting my head into people's ears, my voice in there, and ended up doing, apart from helping organize the way things were judged or whatever, me and Mike were just in there bashing on their doors going, dude, you got to do it right. So Mike could be working on event stuff with them a bit and making sure it was run right. And then I'll be running on the media side a bit more. Ended up commentating a lot on TV. It was funny. I remember that X Games in Sydney. I was in the stadium with Cameron Steele. The commentator, he's like a motocross dude. It was kind of funny. I was like, rad. But it was cool. And that helped pump the magazine, because then those guys would want to advertise in the mag and have their presence in the legit media, because they knew they weren't, I guess. But yeah, I thought anything was possible. I just rocked up in Sydney. No one was saying you couldn't do it. So it's like, yeah, let's just do everything. And yeah, somehow the mag came out on the premiere night.
Yeah, that was fucking... Yeah,
just made it from the printers.
And I remember, because, I'd bought issue 1 and 2, and obviously issue 3 didn't really happen, so... And then...
I've got one.
And
it's photocopied and spiral bound. Yeah.
The world needs to see it, dude. That's 2018. Let's have it.
That's it.
But yeah, and I remember being at this premiere, and then a few, issue 4 there.
Yeah, Russell Tranter.
Yeah,
brownie photo.
And I remember, dude, one of my best friends at the time, Chris Curran, aka Turbo. He all of a sudden was holding a copy, and again, I'm like, where the fuck did you get that? And can I have it? Like, you're gonna read it twice and. You're gonna treat it badly. I'm gonna worship these pages. Like, give it over. And I don't know what. Yeah, but and that was, I guess, that was sort of after issue 4. That was a bit of a, maybe not a turning point, but it kind of, you picked up a lot of momentum after that, and then the mag just kept rolling.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was learning how to make magazines with EMAP, who was a English publisher that had 20 plus magazines. You know, they had FHM, Tracks and Waves and Surf, Australian Dirt Bike, Motocross, Skiing mags, Surf mags, Skate mags, Women's mags, Movie mags, Rolling Stone. You know, that was a big media company. And I got to sit and work with some of the best art directors, editors, production people.
Tons of resources.
Yeah, and had resources and contacts. I met printers and I met all these people. And the biggest thing, I learned how to do things, but I learned how not to do things, and now how not to treat people. And EMAP was a pretty cool company, though, I got to say. They helped me a lot. It got a bit weird when a new management dude came over from England and sat me down and went, we're going to do this for 2020 and this and this and this. And I'm like, nah, dude, you're not.
That's my shit.
It's actually my mag. And it's like, no, it's an EMAP title. I'm like, no, it's not, man. It's mine. Like, they've just been helping me out with selling ads on it. We've got a deal, but nothing was in paper. And he's like, well, no, we're doing this. And I'm like, well, nah, dude, like, nah, and the new head came out, and he sat down with me, and he's like, I really like what you're doing, but you're going to have to do this, this, and this. And I just stood up and went, here's my 2 weeks notice. Like, I'm out of here, man. Like, and then the other management crew were like, no, we're taking the mag. And I'm like, nah, dude, like, it's not going to happen. And, the mag I was working on was going on the press that night. And I just said, look, dude, it's going to be a huge dick on the cover of that magazine. And it's going to say, you suck it, like your name on it. And I was like, I'm going to get arrested or some shit if I do this, or something bad's going to happen. But they backed down, and Neil stepped in the bat, Neil Ridgway, and he made sure they knew. But it sucked. I thought I was going to lose it all. And I just got that momentum going. And then luckily I was losing it, going, I don't know how to afford to do it now. I don't have a job because I'm in Sydney and rent cost a truckload. I was like, oh man, what do I do? And then Mike Daly goes to me, I'll help you do it. I know you hate doing this, chasing money from people, because I'm awful. I can't do that. And I'll help you on selling the ads and help you on the management, the running the back end of it, sending out stuff. And
he's a logistics master.
He's so good at it.
He loves it.
He is, he's a technical wizard. His writing is like that. It's so precise and so dialed, and he doesn't crash much.
No.
Barely ever crashes. In Road Warriors he did. Chipped his tooth.
He did. Yeah.
And I was like, holy crap, I've never seen Mike crash, ever.
The clips from that park in that session, though, even after he broke his tooth, like, I think, what was it, like...
Into that little bowl?
Yeah, like 270 into that little thing, pops out perfect on a 50-cent piece, 540 tap, lands in, carves a bit more than 270s out of the other hip. And the clip, I think you guys, I don't know if Pollack had it, but it was shot from up above.
Yeah.
And fucking hell, that was like, he's like, how did you fit all of that spinning into that little space?
Imagine him riding the Pro Cup, the Vans Pro Cup in Malaga. He'd kill it.
Yeah.
In his prime.
Highest speed double pegs ever.
Yeah.
So fast his pegs don't touch.
Yeah.
Sydney grind.
Yeah. Sydney grind.
Going to Canberra, I think, for the first act jam, and it was like your pegs that you go, you lock into a hot and heavy 50-50 double peg, and you're leaning so far your pegs just don't quite touch. They touch the last second.
It's a carve.
Yeah, it's a carve. And all the Canberra dudes back then, like Majoinen and Dave James, take that fucking Sydney grind out of here. Like, just pegs didn't even fucking touch. These are brutal. Bitch crank that fucking manual. Shit.
Your trannies are too mellow. That's your problem. Get some big ramps.
Yeah, Tugger and Ong, that's tall stuff.
Yeah, Tuggers is good.
But I guess, and yeah, you were rolling 2020, you had Daily involved now.
Yeah, I mean, it was, it was better. It was like, wow, we're back to being independent. Well, I'm back to being independent, and I've got someone on board who's got the same kind of values and the same. Well, actually, the best thing about everything with Mike and I guess it's like our writing, as we're saying. Mike's so precise, and my writing was always so a bit chaotic and loose and random, and whatever happens.
Creative as well.
And I think the way I made a magazine, I just wanted to make the cool stuff. Just like, I want to see amazing photos. The whole idea with the mag is like, you elevate everything, It's not just, here's a cool dude doing a cool thing on a cool bike. You're bringing up everyone, you're bringing up the photographers, you're bringing up the scenes, you're bringing up a kid who sees a photo and goes, hey, I saw that kid riding, that dude must be pro because he's in a mag. He was riding my local park. Like, it just elevates everything, you know? And so suddenly I had a real mission, you know, and Daly was on board to do it with me. And it's like, we can do this, man. Like, we can really step up the mag and step up what we do. And again, I guess like I was saying with how I wanted the magazine and make clothes and run jams back in Adelaide, Sydney felt the same. It was like that again, because it's like, okay, well, we could run events our way, not like Planet X and screw everyone. We'll do it our way. We'll do it legit and make it fun, you know? And we can put it in a mag. We can make movies. So yeah, running events. I mean, because you're making a mag, you want to put stuff in it. It's like, let's just run more events.
Yeah.
You know?
And I guess you had that, you were teamed up with Mike, and together you were able to be like, well, we can organize a comp. We can make, we can.
Well, I can come up with an idea and Mike will go, that's not going to work because we haven't got enough money. And so Mike was always an amazing voice of reason. But yeah, we'll just run comps. Let's do it.
I guess, and you guys together did a lot of events. I mean, I guess you guys started the Act Jam.
Yep.
I mean, and that was fucking epic. I mean, it's evolved into something that's truly incredible. You know, the dudes in Canberra at the moment, Tyson and the Backbone dudes, they're killing it. But I guess Act 1, I remember seeing the coverage of that in 2020 and seeing, okay, Canberra has these epic parks. Everyone from Australia who you want to hang out with and see ride is there riding these parks. It's like not a comp. It's no pressure. Everyone's just having a good time. We read about that and we're like, if they do this again, we have to go. Sure enough, Act 2 was a thing and that happened. And then
it was bigger.
Yeah. And myself, you know, John Young, a few of our mates, we all ended up, this is pre having a license, getting our parents to drive.
Yeah.
And we're at Act 2 and sure enough, there's fucking Majoinan killing Western. Boom. There's Russell, you know, Russell Brindley, who I used to race against. I knew he was a badass and I see him ride local Canberra parks and think, holy fuck, this dude rules. Yeah. And just being in there was just, I guess, set the tone for me just wanting to be around a sort of a more positive, I guess, supportive BMX environment. Yeah. Not necessarily a structured comp, serious, even the racing. I was from the racing background. Just wanting to be good times, good people. Yeah. And that was, so thank you for doing that. That was rad. Pretty fucking rad. And
I mean, you spelt it out with that. Like when I was a kid, I went in a couple of BMX races and I didn't really enjoy it that much. I enjoyed jumping the berm. I enjoyed just messing around at the track. So that wasn't for me. And even all the old comps I used to do, Nunawading, from the old Vertex out of Penrith, Mornington, just all the old comps that used to go on, the original comps, the trend comps up in Queensland. I loved going to the events. I loved going to the comps. I hated the comp. I never wanted to place or win. It sucked. You had to ride by yourself with everyone looking at you. I don't want to do this. Too much pressure. And I loved the riding that went down before the comp and after the comp and all the friendships that were made. So that evolved into all the events we did, had to be about, let's just get everyone together and go ride the best stuff. And I was sick of going to a comp and you just ride one park. You kind of get bored. So let's do a jam like the Act Jam. And we'll go ride all the cool parks in Canberra over a weekend. And then someone will not win, but someone will be chosen as the dude or dudette that shredded the most on all the different stuff, not just one, where the local hero is going to kill it. So
and the cool thing about that is Canberra's variety of parks. I mean, they got more now, but
Canberra was going off back then.
And even like all the parks were, catered a little bit more. There wasn't the same style of park. So at the first stop, I don't know if you guys were, Gungahlin on one day.
Yep, we did 2 on one day and 1 on the second.
Okay. Yeah. And then one dude's gonna be killing it at one park. Yeah. Move along to the next park that evening or that night, and someone else is just fucking destroying it.
Yeah.
And it really kind of brings out, everyone has their
personality,
time to shine, and what a good concept,
Yeah, man. So we did 3 years of it. I always think there's a use by date on events to 3 years. I don't know why. Most of the events I've been part of or done kind of 3 years, and it's kind of, let's do something else. We've got to evolve now. Luckily, though, the crew in Canberra kind of went, they actually did hit us up and go, can we do it again? And I was like, well, you know, I hope you continue the same vibe. But yeah, go for it.
Well, man, I was down at Act Jam this year, a few months ago.
Yeah.
And I hadn't been to one of the modern incarnations of it because I've always, always working on the weekends at the shop and everything. And I rock up, it was Saturday night, Western, and my God, just fucking chaotic brilliance. Yeah. Riding was mental. The party atmosphere was insane. Everyone could basically started kissing each other because I was just so fucking stoked. Everyone's like, this is the best day of my life. And the whole weekend was so good. Yeah,
BMX is in safe hands.
Yeah. And props to those guys for really putting that effort in and making something so cool.
I'm stoked that's continued with some of the vibe we started. It's cool.
And I guess moving on from Act Jam, you guys, I guess more formally, you guys had a big part in BMX games. You were involved with Freestyle BMX Australia.
Yeah, man.
That sort of headache.
Yeah. I mean, a couple of years before BMX Games started, we got hit up. Mike and I got hit up. I guess we were seen as the authorities in BMX because we had a magazine. By the Institute of Sport and the Sports Commission and the Institute of Sport about BMX is going to be in the Olympics, freestyle. And we're talking years before it was announced. We're talking, I don't know.
A decade before it was announced, at least.
Mid-2000s?
Yeah.
To go down to Canberra and talk to them about high-performance athlete training for freestyle bike riders, about everything to do with Australia having an Olympic team in freestyle. So it was a given thing that freestyle was going to be in the Olympics. We knew back then, which is crazy. And it was, always talked about. And I think it's a bit, I still don't completely get.
Imagine that back then. Kathy Freeman, Kieran Perkins, Pete Majoinen. Imagine.
Probably would have been Steve McCann.
Well,
I reckon. But yeah, possibly Pete Majoinen.
First Aussie to get a cover of an American magazine.
I remember that Canadian snowboarder, but we won't go there.
We won't.
Was Pete the first Australian to have a cover?
Not sure.
Yeah, we'll have to check.
I feel like
he had the ride cover. It was massive.
Yeah. I remember Terry Burke from BMX Mafia, or Psychology back then.
Yep.
Broke the news to him because they used to get mags direct.
Ah, they did too.
And Pete would hang out in Sydney for a bit at that point. And I think I maybe just didn't have I wasn't quite on my P's.
He'd come and stay with me.
Yeah, and he was around. Like fucking hell, Pete Majoinen's like in my neighborhood.
He got surgery and stayed with me for a couple of weeks.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah. But we were hanging out at the shop at Terry's, and the mag turns up, and we're all like, "Oh my god, it's fucking Pete Majoinen on the cover of Ride," And at the time, Pete Majoinen had a little RX-7, Mazda RX-7, little rotary thing, and he was trying to sell it. It was in Trading Post, back when the Trading Post was a thing, an actual physical newspaper. And so Terry, being the joker that he is, just loves playing pranks, fucking hilarious, rings up Pete Majoinen, giving him shit, like, "Nah, bro, you got to sell it to me cheaper. That RX-7, nah, man, it's too old. It's got too many kilometers. Like, can't. I want it cheaper." And Pete's like just on the other end of the phone, just this guy's giving me a hard time. And then Terry just busts out saying like, "Yeah, only a loser would own a car like that. Only a loser that gets the cover of an American magazine. Some guy's on the cover of Ride BMX named Pete Majoinen," and like Pete's just like, What the fuck? And like, Terry just giving him shit and like broke the news that he was on the cover of Ride through some dumb story, giving him shit about his RX-7.
That's classic. That's classic good. Terry. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
But I guess what were we talking about? I guess, moving into, BMX games.
Yeah.
And freestyle BMX and
Yeah, it was a weird time. Like, the governing body of cycling in Australia, Cycling Australia, had BMX Australia for racing. And then they wanted to have a freestyle BMX freestyle BMX Australia to oversee events and stuff in Australia. And I was like, man, really? This is crap. Like, this is just going to go bad. So Daly and I are sitting in meetings in Canberra with them, kind of trying to explain to them that, racing BMX, no offense, man, but... Well, actually, it wasn't even about racing.
It's been cooked for a long time.
I actually compared it to road bike riding, and it's like, road bike dudes there was high performance coaches and stuff, and road bike dudes are all full of every drug in the world, every cocktail they can have before they race, and
as is the current elite BMX Australia coach.
Probably. Yeah. You know, like, whatever. I don't want to go too deep into that. But, you know, freestyle BMX dudes don't have high performance coaches, and they don't have nutrition programs, and they don't have drug programs, and they don't have, I don't know, it's going to be a can of Monster, and it's going to be probably a cigarette and a Hungry Jack's burger, man. That's the difference between, you know, jamming in, you know, masking agents and drugs and EPO and whatever, you know. Anyway, but yeah, there's a big difference. But anyway, trying to pull the positive out of everything, like I always wanted to do with the mag, and make sure BMX gets elevated a bit and just more stuff happens. Okay, if there is a governing body of freestyle, could we have insurance for comps? Could we get everything covered so we're not freaking about that? Yeah, that'd be part of it. Okay, cool. Well, let's just do it. If that's the lowest common denominator, that we can run events how we want and have some input into how you run events, then we can't stop it. Better us doing it than anyone else. So BMX Games started, and those comps were pretty cool, right? For a legit comp.
The first one in Adelaide, it was more just, you just had dirt. And
we got dirt. There was just a dirt comp.
Yeah.
Which was off the back in the next hall from Nationals, I think. Maybe it was a Worlds. Who knows, man?
I think it might have been the Worlds.
It probably was a Worlds. It was just in a shed in Adelaide. I was like, really? This is the Worlds? Because I'd seen it in Melbourne in the basketball stadium or whatever.
Glasshouse.
Yeah. That was crazy. That was a crazy event, dude.
Is that the Southeast Melbourne Magic's fucking...
Yeah, man.
Home basketball. I was a basketball nerd.
Todd Lyons was there for that. Who else was there? Anyway, everything got loose. Cool jump comp. Dale Holmes was there.
Yeah. They bulldoze half the track to make the King of Dirt comp at the end, the very end. So it's like, we haven't got room. Let's just right on the start hill. Let's make a King of Dirt. We're footage of Grosser. Grosser would have been young.
Yeah, he was. He'd just moved over. Oh, he might have still been in Adelaide. Yeah. Him and Mickey B were still in Adelaide.
That was pre-Road Warriors, and him and Bazan was still in Adelaide during Road Warriors.
They had a cool jump out north of Adelaide. This big step up. Like South Adelaide, bottom of the hills, we had Dingley Dell, where we had a big step up, which had some cool jams. Yeah. Jams, man. You just got to have jams. Yeah. Jams.
Best.
More jams.
I remember seeing all that old Adelaide stuff, old Volatile Visions, Zolly's old videos. So I think Pleasure Farmers and what was the other one? I can't remember what it was called.
I think he's going to put them all up online soon.
That'd be rad.
Heard from him a while back. Shout out to Zolly. Good dude.
I remember putting on to good music back then too, man. Like
and all Australian music.
Aussie bands like Dreadnought and stuff like that.
Yeah, Test Eagles.
Yeah, hell yeah.
West Pope, Mark of Cain. We used to do demos in Adelaide, dirt demos, and just demos with heaps of stuff. Yeah, man, Adelaide. We made heaps of stuff happen in Adelaide because we started an association over there, so we could get grants and we could get sponsorship and get stuff. But we'd do all these demos, and there was one year it was a crazy metal festival down at Goolwa where they raced jet boats, and we built some crazy jumps right in front of the stage. So you know how you always have a security barrier?
Yeah.
Stage then security, and then the stage. We had jumps in that zone.
Fuck yeah.
But they were kind of really sandy. So the bands would be shredding and we were just hitting jumps. Like, it was crazy.
Man.
And the last landing was so sandy. So, like, it was soft, but even if you landed good, you pretty much got pitched.
Yeah, okay.
But it was fun, man.
Hell. That's, wow. I mean, Adelaide stuff back then, I mean, the whole jump comp, I think that step up, might have been Dingley Dell.
Dingley Dell. That was the bottom of where I lived.
Volatile, and seeing all those dudes and seeing, people from all over Australia. I mean, seeing Kenny Raggett had clips back then.
Sure did.
And that was the first time I saw Jesse Carlson. And he was, I remember seeing
legend.
him actually throwing back to freewheel, seeing him sponsored by GT, racing, killing it, and then riding an Alway GT race bike with Hoffman Love handles as his jump bike. And
they might not have been Hoffman's. They might have been the bars we designed. We got 20 pairs of bars made, which were...
Jesus, what haven't you done?
Got to make stuff, man. If you have an idea, it's in your head, why not try and do it? So we did some handlebars. Jesse wanted some bars. He wanted some dead straight bars because he's doing a lot of bar spins. So just no sweep. And some flatlines dudes wanted some no sweep bars. So it was funny because there was a kid I went to school with, Matt Townsend. He was an amazing dirt jumper. He was in old Volatiles. His dad made drag frames for Harley Harley Davidson drag bikes and sand drag bikes. I don't know if he was a biking or not. He was gnarly. Kind of went to him with like, well, here's a pair of love handles and here's a pair of forklifters or bully bars, whatever, 4-piece. I want something like this. And we'd drawn some pictures. Jesse had drawn some pictures. I'd drawn some pictures. We want to get some pairs made. And, we drew out the diameters and it was all tubes were getting massive at that time. And he's like, nah, mate, it's too big. It'll crack your head tube. It'll crack your stem. It'll crack your head tube.
Too stiff.
Yeah. And he just knew all this stuff about chromoly. And I was like, oh, man. Anyway, so we got 20 pairs of these cool bars made. There wasn't a name for it or anything. And yeah, Jesse ran them.
Well, I think I think on the surface they looked a lot like Hoffman Love handles.
Well, it had the bend. I think they were 12-piece.
12-piece, yeah. Little corner gussets and things.
Yeah, but they were beautifully built. Man.
Wonder where they all ended up.
Oh, I had a pair on a porn star that got stolen after a comp in Melbourne, shattered. But yeah, Jesse basketball backflip for anyone.
Pre-Nyquist.
Yeah, Jesse's
just
riding.
Happened to be in Australia where the global BMX media wasn't.
I would watch Jesse race at Happy Valley, his local track, because we'd just go and jump the back berm or something. And he'd be racing a pro or whatever the top, I don't know what the top class is in racing, but the last race of the day. And he'd go down that back straight and there was 3 big doubles. And he'd like pendulum like no foot, to can.
Oh, man.
Back to no foot on the first jump, out in front of a pro or whatever. Second one, just a huge no foot can or something. He wasn't allowed to 360, I know that. And he just blast style.
Well, I think the BMX Australia rule book back then was feet coming off is okay.
It was.
Hands not okay.
No, yeah, that's right. So
no
you couldn't cross your bars up more than 180.
Yeah.
Because I think I had that problem in a race when I raced once. So yeah, man. Yeah, Jesse was amazing. Like that's the scene at that time with dirt in Adelaide was because you had Bazan, you had Grosser, Dwayne Golding, Russell Tranter, right, and a heap more crew. There was a heap of crew in Adelaide. I mean, Little Black Bike, man. Shout out Matt Hodgson.
Yeah,
right? I mean, he was Melbourne. I met him in Melbourne with a Tony Hawk fringe and the glove and riding flat. But yeah, he rode street real good, rode dirt real good, rode ramps real good.
Adelaide's sort of always had a pretty strong sort of dirt scene, I guess. City dirt thing in more recent times.
Yeah, I mean, City Dirt's been there 30 plus years.
No way.
Yeah, not as big as that, but there was always BMX jumps there, always.
Oh, that's awesome.
From my earliest recollections in life.
I've never been to Adelaide. I got to make that.
Man,
I got to change that.
There's some trails there.
Oh yeah. But I guess we kind of segued a bunch there. But I guess going back to BMX game stuff. I mean, you had the dirt comp in Adelaide, then we eventually moved to Sydney, and you had the first ones were out at what was to become Monster Skate Park. It wasn't Monster Skate Park yet.
Yeah.
It was the building, and you had a bunch of the ramps that would become Monsters ramps. And that was the first year of that was pretty rad. I remember going in that and entering a couple of, I think entering Park and maybe.
I think it was Monster, wasn't it?
It wasn't Monster yet.
Oh.
Like the ramps were all black and they were different inside.
They were too.
And then the next year it was Monster.
Because it was all the Planet X ramps. Because the dudes from whatever the company was called that built the ramps, he was a partner in Planet X. I can't remember the whole story. There's a lot of dodgy business with the Planet X things, I understand. But the guys who built the ramps were legit and kept building it and then started Monster.
Okay.
Yeah.
That first year, I think, like the vert ramp was only half as wide as what it became, and the spine ramp was only half as wide as what it was to become.
Yeah.
And it was turned around, and that was the year that Fink did that 900 on the
extension.
900.
Yep.
And he landed flat with a handoff, but rolled away, and it was the fucking best thing I'd ever seen at the time.
Yes, that was amazing.
And then I guess the next year when Monster was in place and the whole park was set up, and that was a bit more international. You had a few more Gutler, McKay, Asado maybe. I'm not sure if he was. Well, maybe that was Planet X a few years before.
That was Planet X, yeah.
But I don't know, Dillawad. We had a couple of other at that point. By
McKay
then,
was out. Cam White was still here, I guess, but he was heading to America. Yeah, so we had every big Australian dude at those events and a couple of internationals.
Yeah,
yeah.
And that, I mean, and you guys, you and Daly essentially were responsible.
Yeah, I mean, there was more people involved than just us, but trying to keep it as legit as we could, and yeah, it was cool. And yeah, I think they were done legit, and it was cool. There was prize money and there was prizes, and we saw amazing riding.
I'll never forget. Yeah, the fact that an Aussie comp that you could enter, and me and my friends were entering, and you could win cash.
Yeah.
Like I remember Seton Spratt. That was one of the first double tail whips anyone had ever seen.
Yes.
And afterwards, there's a big Fuel TV banner, and he's getting interviewed and stuff, and he's got an envelope. He's got a handful of $50 notes.
Yeah.
Just how much fucking money did you win? You know, like, oh my god, you won money from riding your bike at a comp.
Well, that's part of the Fuel TV thing. Like, I got involved with Fuel TV under Foxtel with Anthony Sedgwick, to help on the TV coverage, which went hand in hand with running the event. And it's weird. I've always thought BMX isn't that big in Australia, so you got to go between all the things. But if we could make this comp bigger and we could get it on TV, then there would be more prize money and there would be more coverage, and we can build it, you know, and we'll make sure everyone's represented, that we flat, that we vert, that we park, you know what I mean? And dirt. And it's like, we're doing this. Like we're building everyone up, not just one little scene. And that meant a lot. And I learned a lot with Fuel TV and working on those projects. Like the first year we just did a 1 hour show. Second year we did 5 shows maybe? Like 5 1 hour shows, and we won the best sports coverage.
Really?
On cable in Australia.
You and Bolton?
Yeah. Yeah, Bolton, yes.
Bolton from Heartbreak High.
Yeah, Johnny.
Skin-headed rollerblader dude.
Johnny's a legend. He's over in America. He's like hell meditation coach now. He's like, you know.
No way.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
He's a good dude. Yeah.
I guess previous to, what gave you some of that experience is you, with Planet X, you did some commentary and announcing. I remember turning Planet X on Channel 10 or whatever, and there was like some Planet X trials dirt comp in Victoria, and you're like calling the tricks.
They just hit me up with Matt from the mag going, can you come and, you know, educate us on what all this stuff is, because we don't really know. Like, can you come and commentate? Once we've got all the footage, just come into the studio and talk crap, pretty much.
So good.
That was fun.
We used to tape that shit off TV. Like, right. And I think
of course, you tape everything off TV when it's BMX, man. Yeah.
And I think it might have been Planet X Trials Dramana in Victoria. And it was like Dirt Comp and, you know, Grosser and all those dudes there, and Denmick, or Erms, that crew.
Yes.
And I remember your commentary, and I watched it, and I was like, that was a sick comp. And everyone, and I don't know, at the time, it was proper mid-school, everyone's bikes looked so rad and so tough. I was like, I just watched it over and over again. And then by the time later on where we crossed paths and we became friends and everything, and I remember just being like, that's the voice. That's the voice Planet X Trials I'm hanging out with. It's kind of bizarre and nerdy of me.
Yeah.
But and that's fucking rad that you're able to use all of your, I guess, experiences through all the Planet X stuff and the TV, getting to know a bit of that behind the scenes TV sort of technical side of things, and then using that to help promote BMX games and promote BMX, and you know, and you were still rolling with 2020 at the time, and that was rad because you were getting kick-ass content for the mag, and it was all kind of pretty awesome, positive time. That would have been 2006, 7, 8, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And I guess, I mean, BMX games sort of eventually kind of fizzled out a bit.
Yeah, I mean, the body freestyle BMX under BMX Australia. I know there's a lot of issues with BMX Australia and money being put. I'm probably going to get in a lot of trouble for saying something like that, but
they're not listening.
Yeah, it's interesting, you know. I mean, as soon as there's a lot of money involved and big grants, I mean, Dinny Spicer ended up getting the gig working with him and got that crazy park for the Melbourne event made offshore. We were trying to get it made in Australia, but then ended up getting made in China. But that was like $100,000 investment or something, 80 grand or something.
Wasn't it like
for a portable park?
Half
it's all,
of the price being made in
half
China
the price
as opposed
in China.
to here by AID?
Yeah. And that's sitting in containers.
Yeah, and Darren, if you're listening, we were promised a half pipe for this very building we're sitting in.
Yes, we need that.
Just wanted to see what's up with that.
Yep. But yeah, BMX games, it was huge. It cost a lot of money to run. It took a lot of resources to run it, to build those big jumps, to build the ramps. There's so much to do. I quickly went, I can't be bothered doing this stuff anymore. I'd rather run more core, small events that are more fun and aren't as structured. And let's just have fun again. Let's just bring it back to the reason we did this in the first place.
And I guess you started doing the Slay the Rails, and then I guess later on House of Hammers in Sydney comps, which were run in a fucking bar in Melbourne, which sounds like it would have been
probably one of the loosest bars in Melbourne of all places. Yeah. Why would you do that? Man, like,
why the hell not?
Well, man, I mean, it's hard, because BMX traditionally is what I know. With people who bought the mag, the stats would say that it was 13 to 19-year-olds that bought the mag. It's not really conducive to drinking and partying. But I was like, screw it, I'm older. We can just invite an older crew and let's have a jam in a nightclub. Let's have a handrail comp in a nightclub.
And how'd that conversation with the actual bar itself even start? I mean,
how'd you
choose the bar?
I lived a block from Revolver when I lived in Melbourne for a couple of years. So Revolver, on a Sunday afternoon, you just go there to have a beer after you've been riding, and become a lounge room instead of friends coming around to my house and leaving crap there and their rubbish and empty drinks. You just go to Revolver and have a drink, and chill out there. The good music, always funny people, cool couches. And there was an urban legend in Revolver that upstairs there was a mini ramp. Like someone used to skate it. I was like, oh man, imagine having a comp at Revolver. It'd be cool. That idea sat dormant for a while, but a couple of years later, ends up, some BMX crew were working at Revolver, working on the bar, whatever. Liam Faye Hampton was working in there.
The absolute beast of
I ended up talking
Liam
to him one night, probably late one night, and going, dude, like, there's always a rumor there was a ramp upstairs. I always wanted to have a comp in here. I don't know how you'd run he was like, let's have a comp in here. I'll talk to the management. And anyway, within a week, a couple of days of that conversation, within a week, it's like, yeah, we're doing it. We've got a night. And I was like, okay, then we'll build some staging. We'll get everything out of the way and we'll put a handrail in. We'll have a handrail comp. Be sick. Melbourne street. Yeah. And we just did it.
You did it what, 2 or 3 times?
3 times.
Yeah,
Again, 3 years, you kind of get sick of the formula, and I couldn't work out a way to do anything else in Revolver in that space. It's tight, man. The fact that we had a BMX comp in there, every skater I knew in Melbourne's like, you had a handrail comp? Why didn't we have a skate one in here? I'm like, I don't know, dude, what are you doing? But that said, it had been done at Metro Theatre, an amazing venue up on Burke Street. There was a comp in there with a ramp and a handrail years ago. Lindsay Brown won it. I think Randall McQueen came second.
Yeah, right.
This is oh man. I don't know, early 2000s.
Okay.
Before 2020. Yeah, there was a handrail comp. Too early. Because I think, oh man, there was a handrail comp on the banks of the Yarra one year. It was a snowboard comp. But they couldn't do it and they didn't have enough snow. They brought it down in vans, but we rode the rail. We could hit it better than the snowboarders. It was only about this high. Anyway, I was out front of Crown Casino. It's funny as.
What a scene.
Yeah. So Melbourne's had handrail comps. Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Melbourne Street.
And then I guess you brought it to Sydney, maybe you have like a year off of doing it?
Yeah,
maybe?
I think so, yeah.
And then House of Hammers down at the Factory Theatre in Marrickville.
Had to keep it local. I was sick of driving a handrail to Melbourne.
And the deck and all that.
Well, the deck could come from Melbourne,
okay.
Because Mega Deck, the cool company.
Oh, was a company, yeah.
We did it with. They had an office in Alexandria that I talked to, but they had an office in Melbourne. So their crew from Melbourne just came in, built the deck. We'd insert the handrail and parts of the ramps and sign it up. And yeah, but House of Hammers was a bit bigger, touch bigger, wasn't that much bigger. But
I remember you could pre-buy a ticket as a spectator. I remember we at Helen Wheels in the store we had tickets available. You come in the shop and buy a ticket and go down, and it was guaranteed to be a pretty good time. You had people from all over the country coming in. I remember being in the shop working on the day of, and crew were just rocking up. Queensland guys, Western Australia guys, South Australia guys, just coming in, and because we were blocks from the venue, I guess, and I was just like being there working. Fuck, this is gonna be because I hadn't been to a slated rail yet, so. Yeah. I didn't know what to expect, and I guess it was probably a slightly larger scale than those ones. Yeah, so it had the handrail, I had a grind box, the coffin on one side, and just a ledge on the other. I was quite bummed because we were meant to have a quarter pipe at the end, so you could air and then come back up it all, which would have been much better because we had more space. But the guys who own Factory and Metro, we were all cool with it up until the last day. We had so many dramas in the lead up to that comp. From insurance issues to the owner of all the places getting back on. There's no way BMX is in here and then having to going cold and changing his mind on you.
Yeah, and it's like, well, but we've just built all this stuff and paid all this for all this stuff. Anyway, we pulled it off. but we weren't allowed to have the quarter pipe at the end to come back up.
That almost didn't happen.
Man.
Was it really mega storm? Half
Blackout.
of fucking Sydney blacked out. And somehow they had downstairs, the bar was sort of open and like it was just everyone's crowded in there. Everyone's going, what's happening? Why can't we go inside? It's blackout. Everyone's just kind of getting a bit edgy and a bit irritated.
Yep.
And a little bit drunker.
Yeah.
And I think the word was if the lights and power doesn't come back on until before 9 o'clock, then we have to can it and maybe do it. This is on a Saturday night. Maybe try to do it on the Sunday during the day.
Yeah, no one was going to come back. Like I was pretty devastated. It was just like, man.
Plus, it cost you a bunch of money. To
Yeah,
even get the event.
and a lot of people didn't come and didn't buy tickets on the door. And it's like, man, I mean, I'd never ever done anything really to make money, but my whole plan was always to break even. Mike would always be like, "You're an idiot. Like, you got to make money." I'm like, "Well, no, just want to do it." Like, anyway, and I was like, "Man, like this thing's actually going to cost money now, like a lot." It's like, oh, it sucks.
And having that in the back of your head, knowing how much energy and money you've spent
And
on
just how many crew would come to it from interstate, and just
course.
letting everyone down. It's like, man, like I'd run comps outside so many times where rain and wind had affected it, and you'd have to call it off, and it sucked. And I was like, we're doing an event in the factory theater. What can go wrong?
I remember just being
Blackout.
like, shit, it's not going to happen. Like, damn it. And I was like, who's going to come back tomorrow? I got to work tomorrow. And then what was it? Like 8:59 and a half. The fucking lights came on and the place erupted.
That's
it was
rad.
so good. Like, I'm pretty sure if anyone wants to track down the edit of it, that it's out there on the
It's
web
out
somewhere. And just that moment, fucking insane.
It was amazing.
And then it was one of the best nights ever.
It was. I mean, what can go wrong? Like, you invite some amazing riders, and you have a heap of people and friends, and everyone comes up, hang out, talk, watch some amazing riding. It's head-to-head riding. Two dudes go in, hit the rail. Best rider wins each heat. The rider who doesn't make it gets given drink cards,
Fuck yeah.
so they can give them to their friends and
then
have
you
a
got
good night.
The panel of judges are drunk, and then Dre and Zave, two of the most hilarious people who've ever held a microphone, are both drunk. Pretty good little combination.
I had really high hopes for Zave being a presenter on national television. That was what we were trying to groom him for. That'd be good.
We'll point him in this direction and hopefully.
Yeah. No, I mean, I really enjoyed that, even with all the stress. That was quite an interesting time.
That was a fucking good night for Australian BMX. I gotta
Yeah,
say.
man.
That was. I think nobody left that place bummed. It was just the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess dialing it back a couple of years, the massive event, the Red Bull Dirt Pipe that happened for I think 3 years.
Yeah.
You were kind of involved in the conception of that. A little bit.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
A dude from Red Bull just rang up one day randomly. Hey man, like, what do you think about this idea? We want to build like a snowboard half pipe out of dirt, and we'll get the world's best vert riders to come ride it, like Bestwick and Mirror. And I'm just like, you're tripping. Like, that's stupid. Like, but
Made of dirt. It's a foot ramp.
But let's talk. So I went and had a meeting with him and randomly talked about building a dirt pipe. And I was like, I don't really think you can just build a 100-meter long vert, 14-foot high thing out of dirt. Like, it just won't last. You've seen how hard it is to pack a lip. Anyway, like, we had this meeting, and it's like, Red Bull, whatever, they're crazy, whatever. They're cool. They throw lots of money at stuff, right? Epic. I was doing a bit of stuff with Red Bull back then on other fronts. So I was like, cool, whatever. I forgot all about it. A couple months later, they hit me up going, hey, we're going to do it. Can you get to Perth? We'll fly you over. So they flew Mike and I over to Perth. We had 4 shipping containers, however many thousand ton of dirt. Had a guy, Brooksy, and he's off-sider who he built all the supercross tracks. And we just had to rustle up 4 or 5 WA riders to come help. So we're at Jandakot Airport. We built the dirt half pipe. We put 2 containers on each side with the right distance apart at the bottom, we thought. Had forklifts and excavators and stuff. And then we just filled it in with dirt and made a dirt pipe. But we kind of made some extensions and some lips. We only made a little dirt bit because it was too hard to pack. You're trying to pack a vert lip. Dirt wasn't the best, but we made some sort of lines, sort of like a snowboard terrain park. We had some sub rails and a sub box on top. We had 2 days building it and riding it, and we rode it at the end, and we got some cool photos and we had a fun time. Kind of proved the concept. Sent all the stuff to Red Bull. Can you not show these photos to anyone? Yeah. Didn't hear anything for like, I don't know, maybe a year and a half, 2 years. And then suddenly, again, I just get this random call. Hey, man, we really want to come down to, we want to come down to Victoria. We're running this really big comp. You know the dirt pipe you made? Yeah, we've built one in Mount Beauty and it's 100 meters long and we're going to run the comp in 3 or 4 weeks. I'm like, really? Rad. Or really? Like, is this true? Again, go down to Red Bull, have a talk. They show me all the photos. I'm like, holy crap. Like, you got to be kidding me. This is mental.
The thing was giant.
Yes. And they were so sure that you can just have 2 walls for 100 meters long. Because some of the feedback we gave them was, it'll work, but you'll need to have it on a hill to keep speed because you lose speed if it's just on flat like a normal vert ramp because dirt's slower than vert. You can't run 100 PSI, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, they built it. Spent a couple $100,000, I think, digging a hole in Mitch's property and
Expensive hole in the ground.
built a huge roll-in tower and put it on a hill with a, I think, 12 degree grade, which doesn't sound like much.
Felt so steep.
You could hit 60 going straight down the guts.
Dude, Luke Weatherall
Brakeless.
rode down the center, brakeless, and ended up in hospital.
People buying little side pull calipers
Yes.
to put on their bikes. Brakeless dudes.
Local mum and dad bikes from Mount Beauty
Yes.
did not know what hit them.
Yes.
All of a sudden, you've got Lee Kirkman and Nick Richardson
Yeah.
turning up, going, "We need brakes."
Yeah.
Oh, we got this shitty Tektro
Side
side
pulls,
pull,
yeah.
and all these dudes are like looking at their bikes, going, "You're joking. This is the best."
Yeah. No, that was a crazy concept. I didn't think it would work, but it worked beautifully.
Well, like I think 3 years that
Yeah,
ran,
again, 3 years.
and more international guys every year.
Yeah, but here's the kicker with that one. There was some. I was like, we need more. We need everyone out. We need every American, and every Euro rider out here for this. Like, we should showcase this to the world. And for some reason, I think the way it was told to me that dirt pipe couldn't overshadow the US and European events. It was a small fire event, in their words. It's like, you spent how much on digging this hole?
And that's a small fire event.
I know, you know what I mean? But yeah, instead of, they only have 4 or 5 internationals at it and the Australian crew. But yeah, I mean...
We're running fucking Flugtag in France. We can't get
No, it was the
that.
BMX events like Dream Ride or Joyride or whatever
okay,
at Whistler. Yeah. And then the one that was Angel Fire Park or whatever, the one out in New York State. The one Anthony Napolitan.
Dreamline.
Yeah. So those events had to be bigger. Okay. And then the one in the UK, what was that one that Toby was part of?
Empire of Dirt.
Empire of Dirt. Yeah, those ones had to be bigger.
Okay.
I was like, whatever.
It was like a hierarchy.
Yeah, I think I might be wrong about that, but that was a crazy comp. Like, I'm blown out that happened. I really am.
Yeah, and the fact that what evolved from a couple of shipping containers in an airport in WA to
what evolved from a couple of sketches, man.
Yeah,
like, holy crap. Yeah.
Oh, well, it's safe to say that you have been involved in. Oh, thank you very much, fresh beer. You've been involved in probably, I don't know, a good chunk of the more significant BMX events that have gone down, I guess, in the last sort of 20 years. I mean,
Daly's probably been involved more so in the organization than me, but yeah, there's always been a little bit. Yeah. Well, I think both of us had our heads in most people's ears and how to run an event. So there's a lot of crew have run their own events.
And 100%.
And that'd been cool as hell, man. And it's actually, I used to love it going to another event that I didn't have to worry about packing up or running or the drums.
Just go and enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Totally,
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know, changing gears a little bit. I mean, being involved, having the magazine meant that you were sort of a little bit of a go-to guy in terms of just everything BMX related in Australia. And you got some funny stories about how you were sort of, you were the man to see if you were an up and coming gun Australian BMXer and you wanted to go live in the States and you needed an athlete visa. And you had to help all these dudes, famous dudes who now live in the States full time. You get your Gootlers and Corey Bowen.
Yeah,
Help them get photos and prove that they were athletes or something like that. Is that how that worked? Like,
the athlete visa for America is obviously quite easy to get. I can't remember who was first. Might have been Corey. Might have been Ryan. I'm not sure. I'm stoked. I remember Ryan Gutler. He got a photo published in the mag, and I ran it double page, and it was right before he was going to America for the first time. And he wrote me, I think it was just an email. He might have rung me actually. And he goes, man, thanks so much for publishing that photo. It's amazing. I can't believe I got a double page photo on the mag. And it was like, wow, he's really stoked. He's like, man, because of that photo, my grandpa's lent me some money to go to the States, and I'm going to hit these comps, and I'll tell you about it when I get back. And I'd known Ryan already. I remember him being in a Nunawading comp in Melbourne, being 12 years old, running cut down Q bars on a 16-inch bike and doing no-foot cans under the lip. And it's like, that kid's going to go somewhere. So it was amazing to see Ryan come up and get him in the mag and because I always figured that if people get the coverage, bigger things can happen. And Ryan's a perfect example of that. And he went to the States that year and did well and got known. And of course then, and I can't remember if it was Ryan first or Corey or whoever it was, but I got a letter and a phone call from a lawyer from a law firm in America. And this woman hitting me up going, hey, I understand you run the magazine. I've got a Australian writer, this name, say it's Ryan. We're filling out his athlete visa. He needs all this information, like, how much coverage has he had in the magazine? Is he a cool role model? So I'd end up writing this stuff for them, for the law firm and for the writer, and I could give them some covers if I had them, if they'd had coverage in the mag, here's the coverage. And then I'd write some things going, Ryan's an amazing role model, for Australian kids, and just start writing all this stuff with editorial, license. And it became this quite funny thing, and I would start writing all this really wacky stuff, and then I would start mocking up covers and just doing all sorts of wacky stuff, so it seemed, Cam White, the whole way through from that era of, the Bowens and Gutlers and Dillies and Cam, all the way through to Andy Buckworth and Jai Tui. And, I think, man, where is he? Jason Watts even, so this one company, this one law firm ended up doing most athlete visas for, this one, man. And this kid who's grown up a lot since then and he's shredding even more, but he shredded back then. But it was just hilarious, and it got a bit out of control. Hope US Customs never see this. But it's a law firm. Then lawyers do just cut and paste and lie, don't they? So
absolutely.
Whatever.
And charge lots of money.
Yeah, but anyway, so I'm glad I could always help out with that, So, and I always figured, I always wanted the mag to be something that could elevate people. I never wanted to put critical, negative stuff in the mag. I never wanted people to be able to write people off in the mag. I always wanted to showcase the positivity in all kinds of BMX riding. And if a rider could get some coverage and get to the States and get a visa and chase their dream, and a photographer could get some coverage and get some new gear and learn how to shoot and be in other areas, and step their game up from BMX, and the job of making a mag was done. That was all the feel I needed.
And that's incredible that you were able to be in that position. And I guess
kind of funny.
And the cool thing about it, I guess all the magazine stuff is you made a point of, obviously writers being involved, contributing photographs, contributing words and stuff like that. You guys made it a real point to pay your contributors.
Yeah.
Which a lot of magazines didn't do. They'd just be, yep, all right, cool, you wrote us that thing, you took that photo, it's going to be in the magazine. You're privileged to have your photo in a magazine.
Well, that happened to me.
See you later. Yeah, right, okay. So, yeah. But the fact that you guys actually would pay, you get a photo in the mag and you write us an invoice, we'll pay you, and which is admirable. You know what I mean, dude? So
I think everyone got paid before me for the majority of the time of that magazine.
Shit. Oh man,
but that's cool. It works out because it grew it. It made the mag keep evolving because people could be a part of it. You're never going to make much money out of BMX, unless you're one of the very few percent that excels at riding, and that's amazing. But not all of us can do that. But, if the mag could help people get a new lens, pay for their next road trip, just for fuel, whatever, then it was growing something. But I tried to do it at an industry standard, like alongside the skate and the surf mags. And I learned that through being at a big mag company. And, you know, that was a good feeling. And not just paying people, but being able to help them, being able to offer advice, being able to help point them in a good direction. I'm stoked with all the crew that wrote and shot for the mag, and I stay in touch with a lot of them, and you see where they are now.
Definitely.
You
And
know?
I guess the cool thing is there was no sort of exclusivity, and you had a bit of an open door, and you had people who would come and hang out, and you would teach them. You almost be like a mentor or like a teacher of sorts, and people who would come through and help you, you know, contribute to the magazine, but at the same time, be like, hey, show me how to do this on, you know, in Photoshop, or show me how to, you know, what I need to do with my lighting on this shot and that sort of stuff. You know, people that have gone on to do cool stuff. You had heaps of dudes coming through and really almost, you took them under your wing a little bit. You know, people, you know, John Young, Alex Liv, you know, Will Herman, Troy Charlesworth. I mean, Mitch Morrison. Fuck, where's that dude? What a dude.
Nick and Rain.
Nick Gascoigne, Rain.
So many crew, man.
I remember, like, you know, being downstairs in the shop and just the raddest dudes coming and hanging out upstairs, and you guys were just creating cool shit and you're all learning. It was a really positive environment. Yeah. Even though I had no artistic.
You were part of that, man. Like, I mean, that building made a lot of that happen. Like that building on King Street, because the mag was growing, and Mike and I were looking to take over Vertex and run the mag out of there, and him do his distro there, and
would run. Baz was meant to, but he never did.
And would run the park. And then it was like, oh man, we're gonna have to buy 80 grand worth of wood to rebuild the park, and anyway, a couple of empty shops ended up in Newtown, and then ran into you guys, and you said you wanted to open a BMX shop in Parramatta Road, and I was kind of shaking my head, going, "That road sucks, man.
Dead zone.
It sucks."
Whose fucking idea was that?
And then it was like, well, man, I really need a space for the mag. Daly needs a space for his distro. Why don't we just collab this and we'll get a sick building ended up being on King Street, which is all kind of our spiritual home in Sydney, I guess. And that space was a BMX shop, Hell on Wheels, 2020, and more upstairs, and then Mike's distro. That collaboration of people brought everyone to it. You know, people could go there to do stuff.
Yeah, what a great energy. And as a relative, what I was saying before, as a relative sort of outsider to the creative sort of process, in terms of, I've never been a photographer or artist or that sort of thing, but seeing how much cool shit was being created, and like the feeding of, you know, like Alex is in one corner going, oh, I've got this idea, and you're like, hey, let's tweak that, and then all of a sudden this explosion of like just rad shit starts happening, and then next thing you know, it's 3 a.m, we're drinking tequila, and fucking just magazines are happening.
There was no rules at all to it.
The best.
There was no rules. There wasn't any structure. You know, that mag had to be as freestyle as what I'd grown up with. And having, you know, I mean, Alex was an amazing example of that. Well, so is everyone. Like, someone would send a photo into a mag. You'd print it in the letters page. They'd go out and buy a new camera. And the next issue, you'd get this package of transparencies and print photos, because it wasn't any digital back then. And you're like, holy crap, the kid who sent that out of focus shot in that I put in the mag is just about to become the best photographer ever. You know, and to watch everyone grow, you know, Graham Pereira, I mean, he was great from the start. Chris Pollack was an amazing shooter for the mag for a long time. Nick Gascoigne, Nitai, Rain Turnbull. It was cool because they would contact you just by sending something to you, you know, and then you'd go from there and you'd watch them grow. And the motivation would come from it being in the mag, and they get a cover and everything, that ante gets upped.
Jack Birtles,
yeah. I mean, man, every page of that mag I would get stoked on.
So many awesome people come through and just, You
know, but one of the funniest stories is Alex Liv. He just out of the blue turns up, hey man, I've just finished my, you know, my my training in graphic design. I think it was a certificate or diploma or something. He goes, dude, I want to work on the mag with you. How do I do it? I'm like, I don't know. Let's come and we'll just go do it. he really wanted to do it. You know, he really wanted to know more about a mag, and I was like, that's just like me. So he became involved, and I was like, yeah, cool. Do some layouts. You know, like let's work on it. And it was quite interesting. And Phil Townsley came over from the UK, and he's got a background of bikes and skate, and had worked with Hot Wheels, a big distro in England. Yeah. So he was from that scene. He hit me up by email before he even moved back. He's pommy as it gets, but he was born in Adelaide. But you won't tell that from his accent.
He's also one of the best drinkers I've ever met.
Oh, he's pretty good. He works for a brewery now. But I mean, he hit me up from England, sent an email going, "Hey man, like I'm moving out to Australia. Your mag looks sick. If there's ever any work on it, I'd love to do some work on it." And we just grew this crew of amazing photographers, design crew, friends, people that would write, just people that would hang out. Like, I think a scene needs a shop. If a scene's got a mag and a scene's got a place for people to come and grow their things. I mean, John was coming working on stuff. We had space to work on. We could make things, and people could come and make their own things in the space where the mag was made. And that rocked.
Yeah.
See that happening. I miss that. I need a space like that now.
Dude, yeah, that was definitely a moment in time that I think we'll all look back on very fondly and kind of miss and appreciate. And I guess, rolling on from that, just intense positivity and just free-flowing good shit. I guess the magazine, the way the modern world is, magazines start to lose not significance, but, they start to not really become part of the world, and with online stuff. And I guess 2020, you made it to 50 issues, which is...
Well, I saw the writing on the wall before 50.
Okay.
I think it was about 48 or 49. It's like, wow, stuff's changing really quick. I mean, we'd got the website, James Wade had worked on the new website. So we'd got a website up. Things were changing. Smartphones were coming in. You could see that, my age group, magazines was all it's about. But I could already tell, I guess with BMX, you see it first because you hang out with a lot of younger kids. That sounds really bad. But you're in touch with what the younger kids are doing, and they're all starting to get phones, and we're getting phones, and phones that do more than just make a phone call. Phones that have got data and internet access, and media, is coming out, and social media is coming out, and that's changing the game from the way traditional print media was curated to everyone's can produce content and everyone could read content. So that was changing real quick. And I was like, wow, we got to really start evolving with that. And I was making moves with the web, but I still love the mag more than working on the web. But that was changing really quick. And, I remember Ron Bonner spoke to me.
Sparky's, Shadow.
Yeah, Sabrosa.
UGP.
Yeah, he did that T-shirt for S&M.
He did. He printed that.
He's an amazing guy. He hit me up going, dude, I've been part of the mag for ages, through 666. But man, we aren't going to be doing print advertising next year. We're going to put it all into creating our own media. And it's like, well, if an industry leader like Bonner is saying that, I can see a lot more companies doing that, and it was, issue 49 went epic. That was one of my favorite issues ever. And I always said, if the mag can evolve every issue and grow a bit in some way, shape or form, one less spelling mistake or, a bit better photo, a bit better print job, you got to keep evolving it. And if it ever went backwards, you'd probably pull the pin. It's a bit of a perfect storm, the changes in the mag. I think we could have kept going after 50, but there was a lot of challenges to change it. And then I just got the biggest kick in the ass. So I had to step back.
Was that around 48?
49. I was straight after the Watts one.
So you basically get the gnarliest news ever. Get diagnosed with fucking cancer. Fucking hell. Yeah, that was...
I had doctors tell me to give it up and pack your stuff up. It was like stage 4 cancer. You got, a couple of months to a year to live. We're going to put you through a freaking crazy treatment for the next year. Pack your stuff up because you're not going to be doing anything. And it's like, I just got to get issue 50 out pretty much. And we just squished that out. Well, actually, no, I'd had my surgeries and I'm laying on the couch and off my head.
I remember going to visit you at St. Vincent's just after your throat surgery, I think. And Will Herman was with me, a few others. And it was like, hey, I've done this. is this because we were trying to get was issue 49 we're trying to get out? Or
No, 50.
50. And everyone was kind of working together to help you
Yeah.
get that out while you were dealing with treatment and surgeries and just the nastiest, gnarliest shit ever.
Yeah.
And fuck, wow.
Issue 50 was epic. And and that was almost a punctuation because at the time I couldn't see getting out of the treatment. It's like, no, it's done. Like, well, we got 50 done. That's rad. And it was a good time because I guess and the video as well, the DVD with Troy came out as well right at that time. Or was that just before? I can't remember, man. My memory's hazy.
Yeah, timeline. But I mean,
yeah.
Every
Okay,
day is
yes.
Saturday first, and then That's What's Up was just before.
And we got That's What's Up out just before I got sick as well.
Yeah.
So 49 came out. Yeah, because his ad's in 49. Then we had the premiere, which we broke down on the way to, and you rescued us in Bulladella because we were Mitch's epic Kingswood wagon that broke a tail shaft in Bulladella. And it's me with short hair. Josh Druce, Mitch Morrison. Who else is with us? And then freaking got hair down to here. And we walk
maybe
in.
Ammon? Was Ammon?
Yeah, Ammon. We walk into Bulladella pub. And it's like, everyone's like wanting to pick fights with him straight away.
It was like 4 hours north of Sydney.
Dude. And everyone's
Kind
like,
of bogan.
and we walk in and these kids and Druce is in tie-dye. And I just end up talking to a chick at the bar going, yeah, it's, dude, like just don't say too much, but it's a boy band and I'm their manager and we've got to play in Brisbane tonight. Now Kingswood's broken down. And then she goes, oh, you've got the broken Kingswood. Oh, do you want to sell it? And Mitch is like, nah. I'm like, we're going to just die in this town. But ended up being a crazy time. Dude in the workshop, after we got a tow, welded the tail shaft. We thought we were going to be cool to get the Brizzy. Nah, man, then the whole freaking diff just cracked open. It's like, okay, the car's staying there. Man, that car was beautiful. But we stayed in Bulladella overnight, just got drunk, played poker. I think Mitch and Ammon were trying to get into a fight by the end with someone, but we survived and you guys rescued us and we got to the premiere. But yeah, it was a perfect storm, man. Like the changing of the time, and I didn't have anything to give to change it. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna issue 50 is the one for now. Just put a full stop on it. I got some things I got to deal with.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, do you want to go into any of the cancer side of things at all? I mean, I remember
it's 5 years ago, man. I'm 5 years out.
Dude, yeah, congratulations.
Here's to that. I probably shouldn't be drinking these.
Dude, let's do a fresh one of these bad boys. And yeah, cheers to that, dude. You're still with us. Kicking ass as usual.
Yep. Time to do new stuff. But
I mean,
yeah, 5 years is remission. Everyone holds that one pretty good. So I'm stoked to be here.
And during the course of all that craziness, like your hair didn't fall out.
Lost a fair bit.
You lost a bit.
Oh, man, I had very long dreads. I had to
You'd cut them off to fit into the machine, didn't you?
The first day, you get the radiation death mask that straps you down to a bed. They couldn't shape it around my head, and my hair was going to get stuck in the freaking Dr. Doom machine.
Cut your dreads off.
Yeah, cut.
Hand me some scissors. I'll do it now.
No,
okay.
one of the rad nurses said she used to cut hair, so I let her do it.
Yeah, okay.
It's cool.
But I remember you telling me that like you would pretty much ride your bike, your like single speed roadie to, I guess Surrey Hills area.
To Vinnie's, yeah, Darlinghurst.
Darlinghurst, yeah. From Newtown, you'd pedal your bike and get zapped with radiation and
then sit in a chair for chemo,
and then you'd fucking pedal back. And I can't even think of you were telling me that you were a few months in and there were people who had only just started and they were too weak to even walk themselves from the waiting room and you were pedaling your bike there, which
stubbornly going, I'm gonna ride my whole way through this because it's gonna flush that crap out of my system. Everyone would, it's funny, everyone would go, oh, how's your battle with cancer going? It's like, well, I'm not battling cancer, man. I was fine with cancer. I'm battling chemo and radiation. And the surgery is like, that's tougher. That's the shit that smashes, because chemo kills everything in your body. Chemo is targeted to kill cancer cells that are fast growing, and it attaches to fast growing cells, fast dividing cells. That's 90% of your body. Actually, it's probably 100% of your body. Every cell divides. Every cell divides fast. So chemo indiscriminately smashes the crap out of you. So yeah, riding was hilarious, but I thought if I can ride, it will keep my mental state better, keep my system pumping. it got pretty wacky by the end of it. Like, yeah, with chemo, they'd pump so much liquid into you on a day, 8 hours on a drip, and they'd fill you with so much fluid and roids and anti-nausea stuff, and then the chemo itself, and then that much more water. I remember one day riding home, I was like, man, my head hurts so much, man. My helmet, man. And from Chalmers Street Park, pretty much passed out in the park. I looked like a junkie. Get home, ring the hospital in the morning. Man, my head hurts so much. My helmet is messed up. And the nurse was like, oh, yeah, your head will swell. I'm like, what? Anyway, that was just funny stuff. But I kept on riding and had a couple of bad incidents where I just ran out of everything because chemo smashes you. But it's only a few days I didn't ride. And I think that's what got me through it. I really do. Like, more than anything.
That's a massive credit to you. I mean, and also a lot of people that didn't know you were going through that, or they'd see you out and about and would be like, I saw Matt the other day, and wouldn't even know that you were going through such a gnarly sort of time, you know? And that's, again, huge props to, I mean.
I met a lot of old people in treatments and in waiting rooms, and a lot of them would lose hope and just give up and just not wanted to go to it and pull out of the treatment. But one of the biggest things with me riding to the hospital, I would turn up to the chemo ward and there'd be the young kids, which broke my heart seeing young kids having to go through it. But I would rock up with a helmet, still with some hair, going, nah, man, do you ride bikes? And just hanging out with these little kids. And they're just like, dude, like,
oh man, you're the man.
I'm not going to die. Like, I'm going to go ride my bike, you know? And their parents would be going, you shouldn't give him false hope. I'm like, I'm not, man. I just turned up here. You know, but anyway, that would stoke a couple of kids out that I went through it with.
And you're an infectiously positive guy to be around, which is one of the reasons why I value fucking hanging out with you all the time. So that would have been totally rad for those kids as well, you know, because you're just kind of beacon of positivity, you know. So yeah, man. I mean, another part of me getting through that was the crazy support from the BMX crew, the BMX community, the Migos Jam, the Queensland crew, Michael Campfield and LC and a whole bunch of crew. Yeah. Because I'd already gone through it with Montoya Brothers. Yeah. Yeah.
But they put on a big memorial jam, big jam for me to raise some money and made a t-shirt. And
got hanging
Mikey
up there.
from Afray helped on. Yeah, everyone did, man. Like, everyone was part of that. Like,
we had a 5-dock version.
That blew my mind, man, to turn up to a jam that's run for you. I found it hard to accept a bit, but it was amazing to get to it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing to know BMX can be there for you like that.
Yeah, well, fucking cheers to that and cheers to you, man. It's incredible. And I guess segueing out of the craziness of the cancer stuff, we'll get to, I guess, what you got going on now and in your immediate future with this crazy ride you're doing. Tell us what's going on with that.
It's not BMX, is it? But a mate of mine was going through chemo last year, real bad. I sat with him through most days of it just to talk him through it, tell him what was coming up. That was really confronting, but I learned a lot about what I went through by being there. So I pushed my way through that. And Paul made it through that round. It was real bad at one point, and I said to him, dude, like, he's a mountain biker. He's an amazing rider. He rode BMX when he was young, Paul Begg. And
wasn't he the coach of the high-performance mountain bike Australian team coach at one point?
Downhill coach.
Downhill coach.
For the junior downhill team, Australian junior downhill team, which got gold medals with Scott Sharples. Anyway, I said to him, like, you're not going to die of cancer, even though they were telling him he was. We'll ride from the lowest point in life, the lowest point in Australia, to the highest, from Lake Eyre to Mount Kosciuszko. Anyway, that was just dumb things I'd say to get him stoked because he was dying of cancer. And now we have to do it because he said he's going to do it. We call it Salt to Snow. We're going to ride, we're going to ride bikes, pushies, mountain bikes from Lake Eyre to Kosci and raise some money for the hospital I was in and the research they do, and then the hospital Paul was in. So that's coming up October 20. So I got to raise some money. We're doing it. We've got some cool partners on board. We got some crazy bikes, some Specialized. They got you still got to pedal them, but they got engines in them.
E-bike.
Make it a bit easier. And an old friend, Nathan Rennie, old mountain bike downhill world champion and dirt jumping supreme mountains
beast of a man
beast
on
of
a
a dude
bicycle.
is
Yeah.
epic.
What a rig.
He's going to come and ride with us.
That's the best.
And a few other crew are going to join us en route. A couple of famous people might even come. But yeah, we just want to. I want to put something back, and so this ride's come up. It's going to be fun.
You mentioned to me the other day that the cool thing about it is essentially you're riding from Australia's lowest point, being Lake Eyre.
Yeah.
And then you're riding to Australia's highest point, which is Mount Kosciuszko.
Yep.
So it's kind of a bit of a metaphorical thing, from your lowest point of your life to highest point. Yeah. And you told me that concept, and I was like, "That's so fucking cool, man!" And it's happening.
It's resonating with a lot of people.
Happening.
Because you can get to some spots in your life where you're at all-time low, and it doesn't matter if you've been given a cancer diagnosis or you've had a relationship breakup or just depression, lots of whatever it is, broken your leg or just having a hard day at school. There's low points you're going to go to in your life, and you can get to a good point. You can get to a high point. It's going to take some work. It's going to be some hard yards, and that's what this ride is kind of the metaphor for. Yeah. So maybe it'll be an annual thing. I don't know, but we're going to do it.
That's right. I like that shit. Everyone should get behind it, man. Salt to snow, it's happening.
Yep. Awesome, you'll be hearing about it.
Fuck yeah.
Cool.
Well, I guess, I don't know, probably we're about 2 hours in. So we've touched on a lot of stuff. And I don't know, I feel like we could probably do this again. And, it's been amazing chatting. And thank you for your friendship.
Thank you
indeed for sitting down and making this The Head Angle podcast sort of happen. And I think, from now on, be sick if we can sit down together with some guests and get some people talking.
I think the past, the present, and the future riders and industry crew we could sit down with, and we can definitely pull some stories out.
Get some creative types, get some photographers.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Maybe find some kooks to talk to.
Definitely.
Hell yeah. All right. Cheers, man. Thanks.
Cheers indeed,
thanks a million.
Thanking you.
Cheers. You.